Well, I'm a member of the Potomac Appalachian Trail Club. I've been hiking the AT since I was 11 years old. I've hiked major portions of the trail from Georgia, North Carolina, parts of Tennessee, Virginia, Maryland, and Pennsylvania. And I'm here with all these other hikers to point out that, number one, the Appalachian Trail was set aside in 1937 by visionary conservationists who knew that we had a treasure. We had a continuous green space of majestic mountains running from Georgia to Maine, and that our country had a duty and responsibility to preserve that trail for all future generations. Unfortunately, here in Virginia, Governor Terry McAuliffe has decided that he supports two major pipelines, the Atlantic Coast Pipeline and the Mountain Valley Pipeline, that would bisect the Appalachian Trail in two places, causing serious impacts to that trail. And that's why we're here today, to ask the governor to change course, because the governor is clearly lost when it comes to policy on energy and on conserving our beautiful Appalachian Trail. So we are backpackers from across the region, across Virginia here, to ask the governor to change course and to give the governor a compass. I will just say very briefly before I turn it over to our speakers, that as hikers, we need three things. We clearly need water. If we can't get water, we cannot hike. And this trail, if nothing else, is a huge threat to water, not just along the Appalachian Trail because of the unique geologic karst formations that can cause springs to dry up if you start trenching and blowing the tops off mountains, but also water to communities, to farmers throughout Virginia. The second thing that we need are mountain vistas. That's why we hike, is to see the beautiful mountain vistas. Unfortunately, the Atlantic Coast Pipeline alone, using publicly available documents, show that Dominion would remove the tops of 38 miles of mountaintops in West Virginia and Virginia, affecting the viewscapes of not only the Appalachian Trail, but of communities across Virginia. So that is why we're asking the governor today to chart a new course. We're giving him a compass, because again, Governor McAuliffe, you are lost when it comes to energy policy and supporting the Atlantic Coast and the Mountain Valley pipelines for frack gas. We are here as Appalachian Trail hikers to give you a compass, to ask you to set a new course. Our first speaker today will be Lauren Stockman. Lauren is a longtime resident of Stanton in the Shenandoah Valley. He's a hiker. He's also a senior research analyst with Oil Change International. Lauren?
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, as Mike said, Lauren Stockman with Oil Change International. In case you don't know Oil Change, we're a research and advocacy and communications group. We exist to expose the true costs of fossil fuels and accelerate the clean energy transition. We like to say that we're data-driven and people-powered. I live in Stanton. You can probably tell from my accent that I was born and raised there. Actually, I've been involved with the region for over 20 years. I married a woman from Bath County who's with me today. She grew up in beautiful Bath County, one of the counties that's threatened by the Atlantic Coast Pipeline. We've lived in Stanton over 7 years, but we've been visiting the area for over 20 years. We moved to Stanton. One of the reasons we moved to Stanton was to be close to the incredible resources of the George Washington National Forest, the Blue Ridge Parkway, the Shenandoah National Park, and just 12-15 miles east of us, the Appalachian Trail crosses the Blue Ridge Mountains. We're often up there hiking with our kids, our friends from Stanton. We're crossing the Appalachian Trail, hiking on trails that crisscross the Appalachian Trail on a regular basis. The Atlantic Coast Pipeline also crosses areas of Augusta County, Bath County, Nelson County that we regularly go and enjoy on the weekends, hiking in those beautiful forests. This pipeline will change those trails that we regularly enjoy forever. Losing my compass there. I want to talk a little bit about one of the major impacts of the pipeline. Both the Atlantic Coast Pipeline and the Mountain Valley Pipeline will not only threaten the sanctity of those trails, but of course they will accelerate climate change. And climate change is already altering the forests, the rivers, the wildlife that we go into these mountains to enjoy on a regular basis. That's why we go there, to experience those natural resources, and they're already being dramatically changed by climate change, and it's only going to get worse. We see warmer winters allowing invasive species to take hold in those forests. We see longer dry spells weakening the resilience of those forests to fight back against those changes. Our organization, Oil Change International, has looked into the greenhouse gas impact of these pipelines. Our research has shown that building these pipelines is like building 46 coal plants. The emissions that will be delivered through the gas delivered through these two pipelines is like building 46 new coal plants from the two pipelines. This includes the life cycle emissions, so not just the gas that is transported and burned in the power plants through the pipelines, but the methane that is leaking from the extraction wells, from the distribution pipes, from the pipelines, from the storage sites, all along the supply chain of this gas. Methane, a much more powerful greenhouse gas than CO2, is being emitted, and it's already accelerating climate change, and as I said, impacting our forests and our mountains that we go on the trail to enjoy. Industry and government are dismissing these emissions, and they're dismissing them based on two basic lies. The first is that gas is cleaner than coal. This is a line that they constantly push, and those methane emissions I just mentioned undermine that talking point for them. Methane is a much more powerful greenhouse gas, and when we include the methane leakage that's happening in the system, gas can be a dirtier fuel to use than coal for generating electricity. The other basic lie, the second big lie, is that gas always replaces coal. If we build more gas plants, we build more gas pipelines, there's this idea that we're automatically shutting down coal plants, and so therefore, even if we grant them that if you reduce the methane leakage along the line, burning gas may be marginally cleaner than coal, this idea that just by building gas infrastructure, coal is being displaced is fundamentally wrong. We're seeing clean energy, solar, wind, storage. Wind and solar especially are now cheaper. They can produce electricity cheaper than gas plants or coal plants. We're seeing accelerating investment in clean energy that is showing that in the areas where we're shutting down coal plants, we're not just replacing it with gas. We have utility scale wind and solar coming in and providing that energy cheaper than coal and gas. In some states like Massachusetts and Rhode Island, we're seeing them shut down coal plants and actually not replace them with anything because of efficiency, because those states are investing and encouraging in us getting more efficient. So we can shut down coal plants and actually not need to replace with an equivalent sized power plant. I think Governor McAuliffe believes in climate change. I think, unlike President Trump, he wants to lead. I think he needs to stop listening to Dominion and other industry players in the gas industry and get the facts on natural gas. I think he needs to show his leadership by withdrawing his support for these pipelines and stopping these pipelines. Thank you for coming out today. You can get the facts on gas from our website, priceofoil.org. We have a number of briefings about the impacts of gas and these pipelines in particular. Thank you.
Thank you. That was Lauren Stockman, a longtime resident of Stanton and a camper and hiker and user of the Appalachian Trail. Our next speaker will be Jessica Sims. She's a passionate nature lover and hiker who lives in Richmond. She's been working diligently against the pipelines and is dedicated to making sure that the impacts of the pipelines to the Appalachian Trail and elsewhere are revealed. Jessica?
Good afternoon, everybody. I'm here as a concerned citizen. My name is Jessica Sims. I'm a lifelong resident of Chesterfield County, and I'm a proud volunteer for environmental organizations like Chesapeake Climate Action Network and for other groups that are more specific to the James River. And as an appreciator of the outdoors like all y'all, I was raised in a family that appreciates the physically rewarding and spiritually healing properties of time in the outdoors through hiking, canoeing, fishing, camping. My family, like all of you I suspect, knows that the outdoors is a gift to enjoy, to cherish, and to protect. It does not belong to one group or one corporation. It has never been more urgent to advocate for and protect what we have here in Virginia. The Mountain Valley Pipeline and Atlantic Coast Pipeline are both unnecessary and dangerous projects and would be irreversibly traumatic to Virginia's landscape. They are physical manifestations of a moral disregard for the environment from these companies. They're attacks on that which I love, and I'm sure all of you love: the Appalachian Trail, Virginia, the Blue Ridge Mountains, our park systems, our tourism industry, our water, our ecosystems, and the history of the state. The pristine, historic, and celebrated beauty of the Appalachian Trail should not be sacrificed to corporations pushing dangerous, short-term projects. The MVP will cross George Washington National Forest and the Appalachian National Scenic Trail Corridor. The ACP would cross the Appalachian Trail and Blue Ridge Parkway. That short-sighted, dirty energy projects would be allowed to threaten our health, our water supply, our property rights, and our livelihoods offends me as a Virginian. We are all stewards of our environment, and it is acutely painful to see citizens of Virginia, West Virginia, and North Carolina sacrificed for private companies to profit. There's no going back if these pipelines are put in place. They'll be scars, immoral symbols of greed made physical. They will not bring long-term jobs. They will not bring wealth to the citizens in whose communities the pipelines will pass. The natural gas industry will become obsolete, and Virginians will be left with a sickening symbol of the disregard shown for our health. We have a governor that has taken many positive steps towards the clean energy and safety of Virginia. It is especially frustrating for the narrative coming from Governor McAuliffe to be that he is helpless or unwilling to help in the fight against these pipelines. I ask that Governor McAuliffe publicly state he will value Virginia over a corporation by demanding that the Department of Environmental Quality require individual permitting for waterway crossings of each of the pipelines, that he will adhere to his promoted position of clean and green energy, and that he will publicly renounce his support of both the MVP and ACP. The governor has a unique opportunity during his last months in office to commit to protecting to the health and future of Virginia and its inhabitants. I'm very proud to stand here with all of you today and say that that time is now. We will not accept anything less. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. That was Jessica Sims. Our next speaker is Kathleen Kit Johnston. She is a Madison County resident, a longtime hiker of the trail, and a clean water advocate. Thank you, Kit.
I was transferred by my company as an energy reporter from New York to Washington, D.C. in 1975. I fell immediately in love with this state. I've lived in many different places in it, and I think maybe my favorite is where I live now in Madison County, because I'm on the morning side of the Blue Ridge and have easy access to some very fabulous hikes. And I do go down to Nelson, and Nelson is a completely different place. You'd think it would not be, but it is. It's greener and bluer and more vertical, and the ACP would just plow right through Nelson County. Okay, so I'm so glad to see so many people here. I'm a clean water advocate, first and foremost. So I say no to 2 more natural gas pipelines in our beloved state. I'm a clean energy and climate advocate, so I say no to 2 huge emitters of dangerous and unhealthy emissions. As an advocate for the environment, the climate, and the people, I say no to cutting hundreds of miles of pipeline through people's backyards, through their farms, their gardens, and under, through, and on top of our mountains, our waters, and our forests. I know these mountains, I know these waters, these forests, and I've studied how fragile and irreplaceable they are. I've written about it too. There are many issues with these pipelines. Today, I decided to focus on water. We're asking Governor McAuliffe to make the DEQ do its duty to assess the impact of these pipelines on the quality of our waters. Today, a major question is whether the governor and DEQ will have the courage to stand up to Dominion and do their duty to us. Today, public access to enough clean water has become a major issue all around the world, and here too. We can do very, very little without it. We can't grow our economies. We can't make jobs. We can't protect the health of our communities, and we can't farm. Heartland, Virginia is blessed with an abundance of good water, at least for now. But the Mountain Valley and ACP will compromise that by disrupting a number of streams and rivers during construction and potentially polluting them after. Leaks from such long, large diameter pipelines are not uncommon. The data is clear. I've worked with DEQ on a few water issues in Madison. DEQ was responsive. So it's hard for me to believe that the agency seems set to break its promise to closely review the impact of these pipelines on the quality of our water resources, and instead hand much of that responsibility over to the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers for a blanket review. I'm not going to say anything more about the Army Corps. Our governor has the authority. Our governor, Terry McAuliffe, has the authority to direct DEQ not to sidestep its duty to protect Virginia and Virginians by protecting our water resources. Tell him and those who would succeed him to change the DEQ's direction and change direction on support for these pipelines. Now. Thank you.
Thank you very much. That was Kit Johnston from Madison County, Virginia. Our next speaker is joining us actually from North Carolina. The Atlantic Coast Pipeline, of course, will go from West Virginia into Virginia and down to North Carolina. His name is TC Mohammed, and he's with the Hip Hop Caucus. TC?
Hey, how's everyone doing? So I want y'all to do something for me. When I say can't stop, you say won't stop. Can't stop.
Won't stop.
Can't stop.
Won't stop.
Can't stop.
Won't stop.
Well, that's how I feel right now, because yesterday I was in front of the White House, and we're not going to stop stopping these pipelines. We're not going to stop with all these people that have strangleholds from the fossil fuel industries. We're not going to stop fighting back and pushing back on them, because we're going to divest from fossil fuels. We are going for 100% renewable, okay? So I grew up in North Carolina, in Pleasant Garden, North Carolina. I'm looking at these trees and I'm loving them, and I'm like, how can I get up there? Because I used to climb through the trees, but I never knew that growing up, that one day, and being a Boy Scout, that one day I would have to fight for the right for these trees to still be here. The trees that I grew up running around in the fresh air, like, I want everybody to take a breath. Something that we don't have to think about, but now we have to think about what kind of air we're breathing. We got to think about, is this air quality good for us? We got to now buy water, because there's so much greed going around, and we have to continue to fight. So in Hip Hop Caucus, we always say can't stop, won't stop, because Reverend Leonard Yearwood, our CEO and president, wants us to continue this fight. So when Trump made his announcement yesterday, we was there to let him know, shame, yes, that's what we said, boo, shame on him. You know, something that was a massive step backwards from global fight on climate change. Climate change is real. And I've seen the effects of climate change on vulnerable communities. The majority of the effects of climate change affect people of color. And we hit the worst. So Reverend Year was from Louisiana, and we fought, and we still fight with those down in Katrina. I've been to Stand the Rock, and we stand with our brothers and sisters at Stand the Rock, and we still fighting with Stand the Rock. We haven't forgotten the walk and the fight in Stand the Rock. I've been to Flint, and I've seen the children that have the lesions on their body. We know that people have died because of improper care of our communities. We now have our brother Mustafa Ali, formerly of the EPA with the Hip Hop Caucus, and now we're seeing them pull funding back from the EPA and the protection that we need in our communities. So this pipeline is coming to North Carolina, but we're saying no pipelines anywhere at any time, at any point. We can move from fossil fuels to clean energy. And as our brother said, we know what it does to our community. We know what it does to our air. And we know that we are sentencing our children to death when we allow more pipelines to be built. We're not just doing this for us, but we're doing it for our children, that they can have a planet to live on. Reverend Yearwood says this: if we had lost the fight in civil rights, we will still be here. We would have been here. We might have had a miserable existence, but would have been here. But if we lose this fight on climate, we lose the only planet that we can be on, and that's Mother Earth. So we can't stop, and we won't stop fighting this battle. So I just drove down from DC, fighting in DC, going right back to North Carolina. But I said, let me pull over to Richmond, because no matter what we're doing, it's not a greater fight than us fighting for our planet. And for the right just to walk down a trail, for the right just to breathe air, for the right just to have clean water. So we are fighting for those communities, and we're fighting for vulnerable communities, and we're not going to give up the fight. And the governor and the president, we may need to take them some compass and let them get on the right direction, because I think they head in the wrong direction. So we got to chart the right course for them, because they are obviously off course. So we don't want them to hit no iceberg, but we need to get them right back, because they're going down like a Titanic. But we need to get America back on course, and we must protect the lives of our children, and we must protect the lives of the people of this world. So I say it again, can't stop,
won't stop,
can't stop,
won't stop,
can't stop,
won't stop.
Thank you.
Again, that was TC Muhammad with the Hip Hop Caucus. We have one more speaker. I just want to say that the Appalachian Trail is a wonderful legacy that was bequeathed to us by visionaries in the 1920s and 30s when they started thinking about this trail. It began in 1937. There have been hundreds of thousands of people, millions of people who've enjoyed it. There have been tens of thousands who've walked the entire course of the trail. The Appalachian Trail is a great American conservation legacy. And Governor McAuliffe, please don't let your legacy be harming that great, iconic American trail. You want a better legacy than that. And who better today to talk to us finally about the Virginia Appalachian Trail than someone who's hiked every inch of it. And that's Charlie Garlow, our next and final speaker. Charlie is a member of the Appalachian Trail Conservancy. He has hiked 1,600 of the total miles of the Appalachian Trail in 2 more sections. Hopefully later this year he's going to finish the entire trail, and he's hiked every foot of the trail in Virginia. He knows what we're fighting for. He knows the beauty of every inch of that trail. Charlie Garlow.
Thanks, Mike. TC, that's a hard act to follow. Wonder if you could help by holding that sign up that you've got there so everybody can see that. Look how much of that ridge is being blasted off. Stand out of the way so the cameras can get that. This is going to be an incredible impact to the ridge line, knocking off about 60 feet and probably dumping all the dirt and the rock and the offal down into streams that we might have for drinking water or for fishing or lots of other stuff. That's a terrible impact, and I have I'm from West Virginia. I was born, bred, raised, reared in Rotting right there in West Virginia, and we got some North Carolina folks here today, so it's bigger than just Virginia. In fact, it's affecting it will, because of these pipelines and more building of infrastructure to accommodate polluting, dirty carbon fuels, will be affecting the entire planet. I was up recently in Maine hiking on the Appalachian Trail, and up there they say the moose are having a hard time because of global warming. Why? Because warmer temperatures are allowing the ticks, those nasty blood-sucking ticks, to attack the baby moose. I know this is where you're supposed to say, oh, and as a result, the moose population is going downhill, and it's getting to be so that you can't even see them when you're, I'd like to see a moose in the wild while I'm up there, but apparently it's very difficult. And so one of the local residents said to me, Charlie, if you want to see a moose, they are very shy, but if you go to a moose-seum, you might see them. And, well, in any event, I know this is supposed to be a serious event, so I'll turn it back over to Mike for concluding remarks, but just let me say that we need to invest less in polluting infrastructure for pipelines and invest more of our resources into clean, renewable solar, wind, and other clean energies. Thank you.
Thank you, Charlie Garlow. Members of the media, if you want to do more in-depth interviews with some of our Appalachian Trail defenders, we're going to stick around for a while. We also are going to take some photos, so if you have a backpack, we want to take a photo with people with backpacks. And what's the best lighting? Should we have that darker to the behind us for a group shot? Where do you want to take a group shot? This way? Okay, we want to face that way, so our backs to that. Okay, so why don't we grab...